Welcome to the Health and Wellness Marketplace. Here's your host, Laura Lewis.
Hello and welcome to the Health and Wellness Marketplace. I'm your host, Laura Lewis. Today we're going to be talking about our brothers, sons, husbands, uncles, fathers, and grandfathers. Yes, today's show is addressed to the health of men. Joining me to discuss all of this is owner of the Seagate company, Richard Lentz.
Hi, Laura.
Richard, thanks for being here again. This is going to be a very interesting subject. Richard, let's take a look at some of the research that we'll talk about, some men's health and that you brought in with you today.
Well, this is just in general. We looked at the causes of death in the United States. Total deaths, and this was in 2002, the latest that I could get any statistics for, 2,400,000 people in the United States died.
Okay.
And then it lists going down. Number 1, heart disease, 28.5%. I'm just going to skip. Number 3 is stroke, 6.7%, because we're going to talk about circulation. So you add up number 1 and number 3, and you end up at 35%.
Okay.
And cancer would then be, it's the number 1 cause, but it would be really the number 2 cause behind circulatory problems. And then, it changes. You have lung disease, accidents when you have, depending on the age of men and people, you can have, accidents being for teenagers and young adults, the number 1 cause of death. But when you add in the whole population, it only becomes 4.4%. And all the way down to Alzheimer's and homicides, and you can have specific racial groups that have a higher incidence at earlier ages of homicides or suicides and specific diseases like that. But all told, 15 major causes of death. And the next slide, and this is the theme of the program.
Okay.
Actually, it was a different slide. We'll go with this.
All righty.
American men live an average of 6 years less than American women. They live less healthy lives and lead in 14 of the 15 major categories of death in America, except for Alzheimer's. American men make 150 million fewer doctor office visits than women do each year because of reasons such as fear, denial, embarrassment, and threats to their masculinity. And that's the topic of this program.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, one of the leading causes of death in both men and women is cardiovascular disease, and one risk factor for that is hypertension or high blood pressure. You brought in some really interesting statistics relative to that. Can you share this with us?
Yeah, well, it changes as we get older. Hypertension, high blood pressure in men that are 25 to 44 affects 20%. Ages 55, 33% of men with normal blood pressure will develop it in their lifetime. And once we're 65 years old and older, 70% of us will have high blood pressure. In 2002, 429,000 men died of heart disease, high blood pressure, hypertension, in that year. That's out of 2.4 million total deaths in the United States. Men develop heart disease. One of the reasons is we develop heart disease 10 to 15 years earlier than women develop heart disease.
Okay.
So the problem is, what can we do, why we have it, how we can prevent it. There's a lot of different factors. Some things we can't control. There's going to be things such as gender, age, lifestyle we can control, types of foods that we eat, the amount of exercise, being overweight, obese, all these are factors involved. And then what we concentrate in at Seagate are what supplements you can take that might be able to prevent these sorts of things.
Okay, very good. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be talking about the health of men and how to get you guys to take care of yourselves right after this. Welcome back to the Health and Wellness Marketplace. I'm your host, Laura Lewis. We're talking about men's health with a man himself, Richard Lentz of Seagate. The statistics of just general health, that was very interesting. By the way, I have a question. There was nothing on there that said just natural causes. Was that under the number 15, the 17.4%?
Other. That was other.
The other? It didn't just say natural causes.
Yeah, I couldn't. There wasn't enough room to make it onto that graphic.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that was in there. So first of all, we're talking about the health of men, and it is an alarming statistic that men make 150 million fewer doctor's visits per year?
Per year.
Than women. Now, I noticed that it really jumps in high blood pressure in men after the age of 65. Up to 70% of all men would be more likely to have high blood pressure. So what are the causes of high blood pressure?
Well, you've got genetics naturally, and I've got a friend of mine back in San Diego that is fighting genetics. Every one of his uncles, his parents, these are the male members of his families, have died of heart attacks. And this guy runs every single day 5 miles a day. And I see him out there because I don't run 5 miles. I can do about 2 miles. And that's about it at 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's pretty good, though. That's pretty good.
But yeah, no, he is actually running to stay alive. And that is, can you combat genetics? Can you overcome that by doing exercise and eating right? And I guess I'll find out because he still lives there. I've known him for 15 years.
Okay.
Abusive lifestyle. Smoking, drinking. I would also include that the way we work too. I mean, those of us, some of us have our own businesses where we're under a lot of tension. Those of us,
stress,
extreme stress, and then, or even more so, can be working for an employer that doesn't appreciate you, that treats you poorly, and you come home every day, and I mean, you take it out on your family or you take it out on yourself. But you now in the modern American woman is also working. But you typically think of the man as he looks at himself still, even if he has his wife, as working at the same time. But he is the breadwinner for the family in a lot of cases. She starts out working, she has kids, and stops for a long time. Then she'll enter the workforce again, and maybe at that time in life where she re-enters, where the kids are a little bit older, it's not as critical as in those years when they're 20 years old trying to save for a house and pay for the car payments. But this guy has got that same job or switched jobs, or at 55 was laid off and has to find another job until he's 65 years old, and he looks for the Social Security check.
Sure.
That's kind of lifestyle, besides the smoking and all that. Poor diet. Men typically, we don't take care of ourselves. We're not the ones shopping in health food stores. Probably in Seagate, 80%, we kept track of the statistics, over 80% of the people ordering our products are women. And
over 80%?
Over 80%.
Okay.
And they tend to be older women that are, 50 years plus, that are looking at what can they now do to help them and their husbands live longer and live a better quality of life.
A higher quality of living, yes,
yeah.
Okay.
It's very, very rare that, young people, either men or women, unless you have a young woman who is pregnant, who's now looking at taking care of another human being. But when you're 15, 25, 35 years old, you're indestructible. Some of the best fighter pilots in our country in the World War I and World War II were youngsters that were 20 years old because you didn't believe in your own mortality. But as you get closer to, 60, 65, and you look at, the average age of death of people that were born in that year were, maybe 5 more years beyond that, you start getting very concerned looking at those statistics. So you're going to start to think of doing more things, but it's typically not going to be the older American man that's going to do it. If the wife or the girlfriend or the sister doesn't do it for you, it's not going to happen. Just like you don't feel like you want to be a burden to people. You're not going to go make that doctor visit. You just go, oh, that's an ache or pain. I can live with it. Or I got a cold. I'm not going to run to the doctor or whatever it is. I'm like that. And it's usually my wife that pushes me out the door and says, enough of this already. You got to go and check that out.
Take care of yourself. Right, exactly.
Yeah. Like I was over 50. I'm 54. And for the last 5 years, I've been bugged by my wife to get a colonoscopy just because of age, and I just refused to do it. I just didn't like the idea of somebody sticking a screen. But that's the way we are.
I know.
And colonoscopies, by the time most of us get it, 45% will have already gone past the point where there's anything that we can do about it, and we're going to die from having colon cancer.
Right, exactly. Now, you also no exercise.
No exercise. Yeah, as we get older, we get arthritis, which typically means we're going to be less likely to move those muscles around because it hurts. So what do we do?
Which is a vicious cycle, don't you agree? I mean, you don't move around, then if you try to move around, it hurts, and then it's like you get stuck where you're just going to have to do it.
Yeah, you got to do it, and it's very difficult to do when you have pain.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some supplements you can take to help to reduce the pain, but the odds are you're not going to take 2 Tylenols and go out the door and start walking for 2 or 3 miles.
Mm-hmm.
You really need to be, pretty much pain-free, because further walking is going to exacerbate the problem and
Mm-hmm.
make you feel worse. And so at the end of that 3 miles, you're probably not going to be able to get up for a couple of days.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we're not the ones buying supplements, and the diets that we're eating, that's all part of it. We're eating processed foods, we're eating foods on the go, we're just not getting the nutrition that we might have if we were home and able to eat that home-cooked meal, chicken soup and a fish meal every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, 69% of us are overweight. And if you're overweight, then a lot of other things happen. The pain from arthritis, the bad back, the diabetes onset. There's a whole host of things that happen that we could get rid of if we would just, cut down on the beers and cut down on the greasy hamburgers, eat the right foods, but we're not going to do it because we're in a hurry. We don't like to cook. If we're living by ourselves, we're certainly going to be ordering the pizza and the Chinese food for takeout.
Easy, a feel-good kind of thing. Well, so we've talked about the problems. Basically, what can men do to reverse this, Richard?
Well, I don't think, this type of program, the odds are a man isn't going to be watching us right now. We're going to have that same percentage, 80+% women. It's a daytime television program, except in certain areas. So we're going to be really addressing the wife or the mother or the sister.
Mm-hmm.
The few men that are watching daytime TV might not necessarily be under that stress if they're not having that kind of work environment and not having to eat on the go.
Now, you did bring some graphics relative to this subject about what they can do, addressing 63% of the causes of men's mortality rates. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're not addressing, the natural causes. This is mostly heart, circulation, high blood pressure. Number 1, reduce LDL cholesterol and total cholesterol, triglycerides, and blood pressure. Eat less. I learned this one a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
We eat out of habit, and we eat to feel good, and we eat because we're compensating for other problems or stress. But we don't need to eat as much as we get older. Our metabolism decreases. We're not growing anymore. The needs to replace those cells that we had when we were 20 years old are remarkably decreased. But we continue to eat, and it's just a balance of energy and weight.
Right.
The more we eat, the less that we use that energy, and it's going to go right on our gut. And that's, for men, it goes on our stomach, and it goes on our hips.
Mm-hmm.
For women, it goes in other places. But men, are typically, you're going to have that beer belly, and your sides are going to be too big, and suddenly you realize, I can't fit into those pants anymore, and you blame it on the blue jeans, or maybe your wife shrunk the pants in the laundry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I understand that. Or they went to the dry cleaners. The dry cleaners shrunk my clothes.
Exactly.
What's next here? Eat more fiber.
Eat more fiber, oats, psyllium, barley, carrots. Even though carrots are high in sugar, carrots have so many other good nutrients in it. Psyllium is a good one for helping cleanse your system. Oats and barley also, they contain natural beta-glucans in them. Carrots, not just carrots, but eat a lot of fresh vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
More essential fatty acids, fish oil, omega-3s. What we're talking about is, part of the problem as we get older, and we also get more depression and Alzheimer's and all that. And there is, one of the statistics on causes of death was Alzheimer's disease.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the only one where women lead men in Alzheimer's disease as a cause of death out of those 15.
I did not know that. We're going to stop right here in the middle of our list, but when we come back, we're going to finish our list.
Okay.
All right? We'll be right back with Richard Lentz after this. Welcome back, talking about men's health, what we can do to reverse the process of the inevitability of basically men having problems dying earlier than women, or developing heart disease and being sick. So we were in the middle of our list here. We were just talking about essential fatty acids. The next one is eating more fish.
Eating more fish.
And less red meat.
Yeah, and you'll get, depending on the type of fish, you'll get more omega-3 fatty acids anyway. Omega-3s are important for stability, Alzheimer's disease, even more important They are the actual component of our nerves.
Yes, brain, nerves,
spinal column.
People don't really realize that. I mean, the fatty tissue, it's a major component of our nervous system.
Exactly, and they're called essential fatty acids because we have to eat them. We can't produce them ourselves.
Essential. Yes.
And omega-3s, of all of them, you hear about the buzzwords DHA, EPA. Those are the components. That's probably 90% of the omega-3s, fatty acids. What it doesn't say on the graphic is eat less omega-6s, which is coming from the red meats, from some fatty vegetables. You want to stay away from things that are going to change the balance of omega-6 to omega-3 by more than 4 to 1. I mean, and the American diet typically has 10 times to 20 times the omega-6s, and that is an indicator of heart disease also.
Okay. By the way, I have a quick question about the red meat. What about wild game? I mean, I've heard that some people believe that having wild game is much more healthy for you than just traditional, just red meat.
Probably for different reasons, like you have no hormone treatments, no antibiotics, wild, and there's a lot of controversy in the health food industry about what exactly is free range or wild. Some things can be let out of the barn, but they're still in their little captive control area.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about, folks that go out and responsibly go and get meat, that type of thing. They're big advocates on that. Supposedly maybe a higher essential fatty acids. I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it, but I find that rather interesting.
Yeah, no, theoretically, I think that would be a great idea. Practicality, most of us live in cities.
Right.
So the only thing we'll hit is squirrels and pigeons.
I'm going to go out and do a little game hunting today. Okay, next thing, eating more tomatoes and mentioning the antioxidant lycopene.
Yeah, lycopene, antioxidant, and it also has, I think a lot of men are finally realizing, and doctors too, they're recommending taking more lycopene. But in the case of Seagate, we say take your lycopene as part of your tomato. Don't try to separate out lycopene as these lycopene supplements are doing. And it's been an important adjunct to the control of prostate cancer, and this it's so popular now that I don't think we even need to convince doctors anymore that eat a tomato a day, and that we developed a product that is exactly 1 capsule equals a tomato a day, which we'll talk about at the end of the show. But no, lycopene supplements, and it's so important that I think I made the mistake of mentioning it twice on the graphic.
Oh, okay, all right. Next is olive oil for cooking and eating.
Olive oil also for topical. Olive oil is great. We use it in some of our homeopathics. Olive oil is good as an antioxidant, antimicrobial. It's a great antioxidant to take. It doesn't raise your cholesterol. In fact, the FDA, this was in November of 2005, has allowed us to put on the label of our olive oil that people that take it at the rate of 230 milligrams per day can assume that it's going to reduce the incidence of heart disease. And we don't recommend that high of a level just because most people need to also reduce 230, this is, let me back up, 23 grams per day, which is equal to 230 calories. Most people aren't going to take 23 grams of olive oil and reduce 230 grams of some other
out of the other
fat.
place, like taking the whipped cream or the butter or whatever out of their diet.
Yeah, so that recommendation could actually cause an increase in obesity by increasing the olive oil consumption.
You have to be responsible. And I do want to mention really quickly about olive oil, too, for cooking. Many people, first of all, one, it is a monounsaturated fat, which is really wonderful for lowering the bad cholesterol in your bloodstream. But also, you should never, when you're cooking with olive oil, let it get to the smoking point, any kind of oil, but you don't want it to smoke. Right, because it makes that oil just kind of lose a lot of its beneficial qualities. Now, go ahead, I'm sorry.
One other item on the olive oil. We've substituted using, we're not using the salad dressings that you buy in the grocery store. We just use olive oil on our salads, but there's only so much olive oil that you can take, because olive oil gets a little bit old after a while, and that's why we decided to make a supplement with soft gels of olive oil.
Right, exactly. Yeah, many people don't want to keep having the olive oil in everything on a daily basis, I know. Yeah. We've got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll talk more about tips on to improve men's health right after this.
Welcome to the world of Seagate, fishing company, organic farmer, and health food processor. The raw materials that are processed in our plant come from Seagate's organic farming and fishing operations. Seagate cannot improve upon nature. However, we can concentrate these valuable nutrients into quality products that are beneficial to your health and reasonably priced. Carrots and garlic combines beta-carotene with garlic's antimicrobial nutrients and support against heart disease. Olive leaf extract, antimicrobial support without the side effects of pharmaceuticals. Shark liver oil, rich in omega-3s, essential for maintaining a healthy heart. Grapeseed extract, a powerful antioxidant promoting blood vessel elasticity. Seagate broccoli capsules, a convenient part of your daily anti-cancer diet. For more information on Seagate, call 1-888-505-GATE, or please ask your local health food store to call us.
Welcome back. So talking with Richard Lentz from Seagate about men's health. Okay, Richard, we have got a viewer that has a question for you, so let's take a look.
What can help with high blood pressure and cholesterol?
Well, really, honestly, this whole list we're covering, right, is something that, so we can just continue on down the list because it's all going to address lowering blood pressure and cholesterol. So we were at grapeseed extract.
Grapeseed extract, the strongest antioxidant that we produce, 40 times higher than vitamin E. Great scavenger. This is one where a lot of these diseases that are happening in our body are the result of the breakdown of the walls of both the blood vessels and also some of the heart tissue, and that's as a result of a lifelong circulation of these oxidative molecules. And grapeseed extract is just like a vacuum cleaner, a scavenger that goes around.
They're called free radicals, right? Is that right?
Yeah, free radical, not like Abby Hoffman. This is this is more of a like a compound, like it's almost like acid circulating around your body, which is attacking the molecules that are lining, and pulling electrons off, and then you have unstable molecules that disintegrate, just as if you left acid on top of a metal surface. It would just eat right through it, and that's what's happening to your blood vessels.
Well, we're trying to protect that too. Okay,
we mentioned tomato, also saw palmetto, selenium. Saw palmetto is another one that men have been using for prostate problems.
Okay.
Reduce salt definitely, unless you're running. If you're running and you're giving off a lot of salt, you actually have to replace the salt, but most of the people aren't.
Okay, and then there's reduced carbohydrates and reducing excess caffeine. Stop smoking and chronic alcohol use. You have to exercise, and you also, it's important to do vitamin and mineral supplementation such as magnesium, vitamin E, carnitine, arginine, niacin, chromium, and we're talking about the whole works. We're talking about antioxidants and nutrients to support the body and the immune system, that type of thing, which leads us to, you've got in front of you recommendations for men.
Okay, these are just the Seagate products that, we mentioned a lot of other products that you can do, and these happen to be the ones that we have. This question comes up all the time when people say, well, what do we take? We have high blood pressure and this and that. And there's no magical pill that's going to turn everything around, especially after a whole lifetime of abuse. You've got to take it slow, especially if you've never exercised since the 10th grade.
Okay, so you've got carrot
powder, as we mentioned, olive oil capsules, which we make it a lot easier. You don't have to taste the olive oil. I take 2 capsules a day.
All righty.
This is the marine protein for those of you like me that don't eat enough fish meals every week. I'm taking 10 capsules for lunch with an apple, which is, if you add all that up during the course of a week, will be equal to about 2 fish meals per week.
Okay, and which is recommended.
That's recommended, and is a substitute from going out and getting a hamburger. Our grapeseed extract, omega-3 fatty acids in our shark liver oil, And then finally, these are our tomatoes. 1 capsule of tomatoes. These are organically grown on our own farm, and we freeze dry it down to where there's such a loss, 99% loss of weight in the moisture in the tomato, that 1 capsule of 500 milligrams is the equivalent to 1 whole Roma tomato before we freeze dry it.
So hence the name. You've got 30 capsules in here. So there's 30 tomatoes in that tiny little bottle.
Yeah, that was my invention.
Very creative.
Couldn't think of another name.
I do like that a lot. It's very good. Very good. Thank you so much, Richard.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here. And that's all the time we have today on the show today, folks. But if you'd like to know more about Seagate and all their amazing products they offer, you can call 888-505-GATE or 4283 or visit their website at seagateproducts.com. Richard, thanks so much for stopping by today. I'll see you again soon, I'm sure. And thanks to all of you at home. Thank you for visiting the market as well. We're open again tomorrow at the same time, same place, so be sure to tune in. And don't forget to tell your friends and family about us. I'm Laura Lewis. See you next time on the Health and Wellness Marketplace. Have a great day.